one from a speaker that couldn't make it. So with that, I'll pass over.
Great, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Quite long day today. I hope you're not really tired from today's schedule. My name is Konstantinos, and I hope I have you with me. This is going to be a talk about a pragmatic approach to microfrontends. So basically, microfrontends have actually started gaining a lot of traction the last few years. This is basically for a very good reason, and because you're able to take your big monolithic front-end applications and break it down to more smaller parts, more manageable parts. And actually, the adoption to microfrontends depends to a few different factors, like for example, if your UI is really complex and if your application is actually getting bigger and bigger, so it grows that much that it's not maintainable anymore. And also regarding to the team size. So you can imagine that it might be a bit easier for a team of 20 engineers to work on a monolithic application, to a single application, but it's harder and harder when this number actually grows to more engineers in the company. So for example, a company with a team of 200 engineers is really hard to work in the same repository, in the same monolithic application. With that, I'm basically Konstantinos, or Kostas, which is like the shorter version of it, with a K, not with a C, so as not confused with the Costa coffee chain. I've been building microfrontends since 2019, and thanks to Luca Messarilla, who has actually architected the whole system back in the days at DAZN. And currently I'm engineering at BitDev, where we're actually building the future for microfrontends. This is my Twitter handle. You can actually find me on Twitter with this handle if you have any questions or want to just reach out. This talk is going to be a discussion about adoption to microfrontends, when it is a good time to adopt microfrontends, a pragmatic approach, and what does it look like. And we're going to see a demo how we can actually take a monolithic application and move to microfrontend. With that, I would like to ask you, have you used microfrontends before? How much familiar are you with that already? Are you planning to use microfrontends in the future? Or is it something that might be interest you? Yeah, kind of? Okay, that's good, that's good. So basically, this is a result from a recent research from State of Frontend, where we found out that from the group that actually participated in this research, 25% of the users have been started using microfrontends, and this is actually a number that is growing and growing all the more. And we have companies like PayPal, Amex, and many more that are Netflix that are joining this microfrontend vibe. And this is for a very good reason. And this also helps get the whole infrastructure more and the architecture more mature in a way that it's able to provide feedback with what are the good patterns and what are the bad patterns about applying microfrontends. But adopting microfrontends is basically not that easy. It's not a mundane work. It might be quite complicated, and this depends on your team resources, depends on how much time you can actually spend on that. And basically, you would need to spend a lot of time deciding what tools you're going to be using and what are the best approach for you. But in this procedure to adopt microfrontends, you basically need to take decisions. And these decisions you also need to take into account what the future is going to look like with your application. But when future is a factor in your decisions, this is really hard because it's really hard to forecast how your application would look like in the future, what are going to be the needs, what are going to be the requirements by then, how the business will look like. So the best thing to do is actually take a decision at a time. So basically take a step-by-step process. Basically you have the decisions that you make at the moment are very crucial. And this is because you actually know what are the needs that you have right now, what are the requirements that you have right now, but you don't know what the future will look like. So basically, basing your decisions on these factors, what you know already, is a good starting point. And you need to embrace iteration over it. So basically, you can start implementing one way, your micro-frontend, and you can see what works and what doesn't work for you, and you can actually start iterating on that, finding a different solution, find that it actually tackles your problems at the moment, and continuing that process. But you might be asking, when is it a good time to move to micro-frontends? And this is basically when your UI is quite complex. So, for example, you might have many different components that are interconnected together. So it might be a good case for you to move to micro-frontends because it's going to break down your UI into simpler components, embrace composability, and find out a way to make things easier for your teams. With that said, you might have multiple teams working on the same repository, in the same code base. This might be really hard. This could lead to conflicts between your teams and make your teams really slow. So that's why you would need to make these teams independent. And the way that you make them independent is by applying micro-frontends. So you can take a part of your monolith outside of your code base and actually make a team just responsible for that part of your code base. One more thing is when you start needing independent scaling. You can imagine that basically when you have quite many feature teams inside the company, it's really hard to go something to production, which means that a change will need to get the whole monolith up to production. This is really hard because it means that if you want to roll back, you would need to roll back all the changes along with this feature, or you might get blocked and conflicted with other features that are currently developing. This is a really good time when you start when you start needing actually to start releasing independently. This is a really good time for you to move to micro-frontends. And one more thing is that the monolith, as it grows, you can imagine can get really hard to maintain. So, for example, you have a code base that is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You have like teams that are contributing to it, and this is going to be harder for you to maintain because there might be breaking changes, there might be things that you would need to maintain along the way, and it's getting harder. With that said, a good way to move to micro-frontends is basically a pragmatic approach. And what I would like for us to see today is what a pragmatic approach would look like. But let's first see the definition of pragmatism. Pragmatism is basically an approach that is practical, realistic, and focused on achieving specific goals or outcomes. Considers the context and constraints of a situation and seeks to find the most efficient and effective solution given those circumstances. And what does this mean for an organization? And so basically how you can actually take this definition and apply that to your micro-frontend adoption. This is basically how you can actually start with the Conway's law, which basically says you can actually start seeing inside your organization what are the communication patterns, what are the communication structures. And basically out of these structures, you can actually start structuring your micro-frontends, your services. And this is how you end up having your teams responsible for specific initiatives, which actually the business would add business value. And along with that, what you need to do is basically start analyzing this kind of patterns, and this kind of patterns will actually show you what the micro-frontends would look like. Then you could actually go to your monolithic application, analyze how you can actually separate some parts of this application, define the boundaries between those applications in the way that regarding the user experience and also regarding the features or the components that you would like to isolate, and then start planning the refactoring. So you create like a timeline, you have like you allocate resources, and you start building actually this micro frontend. You prioritize the adoption in a way that it gives business value, in the way that you can actually prioritize the micro frontend that adds more value to the business, but it's really easy to migrate to. And when you start developing, you will also need like to continuous testing and continuous deploying, so as to make sure that nothing breaks in the meantime, and create the API contracts that you will need for your micro frontends to communicate between each other, and also between your host and your micro frontends. And this is when you start integrating. When you have like this API contract set, it's a good time for you to start integrating and see how this micro frontend will fit into the whole picture. And of course, last but not least, is basically start monitoring and maintaining your integration. And this is going to be by adding like error tracking, by adding like some tools for you to be able to find out what are the errors that might be happening in production. And this actually brings us to a use case based on which we'll actually work on the demo. And this use case is basically our great streaming service platform. Any resemblances to a real service is totally coincidental. But basically we have like this Video Plus streaming service, and this is a monolithic application at the moment. We have like this slider, and we have like the catalog of the movies, and we have like some detailed screens, detailed pages of the movies, until when we have some new requirements from the business. So the company is about to focus on the user engagement of the users, and they plan to create some dedicated teams on the business level and the product level that they're going to be focusing on the user engagement. And what this means for us as developers is basically that they're going to focus on the slider part of this monolithic application, and they want to add more titles, they want to add more movie details, and they want to experiment with video preview of some movies. But with the current architecture, this is really hard because the application is quite monolithic, and we're not able to do that. Our team is focused on developing other features. So along with these product and business teams, we want to allocate a specific engineering team that will be focused onto these initiatives of the business. So with that, we come to our demo for today. Let me switch over to my Visual Studio, and hopefully, is it good? The fonts are good? Yeah? Is it all right over back there? Yeah? Okay, great. So this application is basically a monolithic application. I'm using a monorepo structure over here. Inside our app's host, you can actually find our monolithic app. And this is nothing more than a Create React app. So inside the source, you can find like the index.js and everything that, like what we would do usually with a Create React app. And I have also prepared like here another package of this monorepo, which is the MFEs, where we're going to add our extracted micro frontend. So if I run npm start over here, this is what we're going to get with. Okay, so here we have basically our monolithic application. You can see that the banner is at the top here, and we're going to try to extract this part of the application to a separate micro frontend. So if we start here, we can see that in the home page, we basically use this banner component. So we want to start replacing that and moving that to a separate package. And so to start with, we're basically gonna create here a folder that is called hero, and inside here a source folder, and we're gonna get these banners. inside the source. Okay, I will need a few more things, like for example the index.js, index CSS. I think that's all for now. Inside the source, let me select again. Okay, paste doesn't work. Okay, yeah. And we'll also need the packagization from here down to our hero. Oops, paste. Okay, and I think that we're also gonna need our public folder from the host, so as to create a playground for our hero micro-frontend. And let me edit this. So this is not the Video Plus host anymore. This is gonna be the Video Plus hero. This is gonna be the package name. I'm gonna change the port for this specific micro-frontend, and this is gonna be served in the port 3001. And we're gonna make a few changes over here. We don't need Redux for this micro-frontend or router, so I can actually remove these parts. We don't need them anymore. And instead of the app, we basically wanna import the banner from components, banners, banner, okay, and use this banner inside here. Okay, I think that's good enough for now. Let me check that we're actually running fine on localhost 3001. And okay, cannot resolve the components. Let me check back. Okay, yeah, because we don't have a folder components. Okay, let's leave it like this for now. I think we don't gonna add more components here, so this should be fine. So if I switch over to here, okay, and I have forgotten another file, which is actually our data for displaying this banner information from here. And this is not here, this is inside the source. Okay, I would need to copy this one inside our source folder. Here, paste. And I can actually remove all these exports. We just need the cards, which is the images that we display in the banner slider. Let me go back here. If I refresh the import, okay, I know what it is. Okay, let's update the path to here then. Here then, okay. Let's check now. Okay, great. So we just moved out the banner micro-frontend, and we actually created a micro-frontend out of it. It's not yet integrated to the to our application, to our host application, but you could see how easily we could actually extract this slider. This is working separately in the port 3001, and that's good enough for now. While we actually have here in the 3000, we have our whole application. So what we need to do now, we can actually go back to our home page from here, and we can actually remove the banner entirely. So what we need to do is replace it with a new component that we're going to create together. This is going to be called micro-frontend. We're going to define a name for that, which is going to be hero. And we're going to define also the host that this micro-frontend will be running at, and this is going to be the local host 3001. But we haven't defined yet this micro-frontend component, so let's do that. So here we can create a new folder that is called micro-frontend, and inside that let's create a new React component. And here we can actually start implementing our micro-frontend component, which receives a name and also the host inside here. Let's export the micro-frontend as well. And what we need here to return is basically just a div, nothing more than that. But this is not enough. We need to somehow get this micro-frontend loaded inside this div. This is the div that will actually host our micro-frontend from the other host, from port 3001. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to define a use effect. So basically, when this component mounts, we can actually start fetching some data from our host. And what we're going to do is get some data from the asset manifest JSON. And this is provided from the create React app, which is basically a Webpack configuration. If I get this file, just to have an idea what this file looks like, if we go to port 3001 and add this as manifest, so let me make it a bit bigger for you. So basically, this is a definition of files, and you can see that it includes like a mapping of our files to our local file system of this server. So what we're gonna do is start importing this main.js file inside, load it in our page, and inject the micro-frontend in our screen. So what I'm gonna do here is when I fetch this as manifest, I can actually parse the JSON response, and after that we can get the manifest file, the manifest response, and we will need to create a script tag. This script tag is going to be loading this resource from the micro-frontend host server, and this is going to be something like document create element script. Oops. And here the source of this, the source of the script is going to be our host, and we're going to add the path to this file, so we can get the manifest from here and get the files, and from the files we're gonna need the main.js that we've seen before from the script. And now we're gonna need to add this script inside our head like that. So basically this is injecting our main.js from the host inside the screen. Let me actually add the console log just to make sure that this is working as expected. So basically on load, you can, on load equals okay, and also yeah, that should be good. Let's go back to our 3000 port. Let's open the developer tools and see if this is loaded now or not. Okay, that doesn't seem to be loaded. Give me a sec. Let's check the console. Is there any issue? No. Okay. We actually we haven't imported the micro-frontend inside here. Okay. So we will need to import our micro-frontend component from this micro-frontend path. I'm gonna save. This is gonna let us run our application. So we are in port 3000, and we just see that our banner is replacing our whole application. This is because we are mounting on the root ID, we are mounting the app that is loading from the port 3001, but we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is go back to our hero here, and instead of mounting that on the root element ID, we're going to mounting that to a dynamic element. So this is going to be a dynamic function. We're going to name it render hero. That's going to be getting an element, and it's going to be mounting the components inside this element. And we're going to expose this render hero so as we are able to call it. And like that, we can go back to our microfrontend here, and we can start calling this from here when the script has been loaded. And this is gonna be something like render hero, render with the name of our, and we're gonna be calling this function. But we actually need to pass an element here, and what this element is gonna be look like, we will need to use a ref inside React. So this is gonna be like this. We also need to import that, and finally pass the ref inside your div to get the element instance. And finally, we can actually pass the reference of the element inside this function, which is like the render hero, as the name of our microfrontend. And if we try this again and refresh the screen, okay. So basically now we have removed the banner, and we have basically injected the banner from port 3001. And if you see, this is basically our div where we're actually injecting the microfront from port 3001. With that, we actually can have like we can improve things a lot by, we should add actually better error handling. We would actually need to add error boundaries. We would need to add unmount functions, similarly to what we did with mount functions. And yeah, this is basically a very, very simple approach on how you would be actually able to migrate from a monolithic application to a microfront application, and load in the runtime this microfrontend. With that, I can actually go back to the presentation. Yeah, so basically this was our demo. It was quite simple, but it's a good starting point if you want to start experimenting a bit with microfrontends. It's not the best solution, of course. There are much better solutions there, but it's a good starting point, as I said. If this is not enough for your case, you can actually start looking into more complicated setups, like, for example, module federation or single SPA. But yeah, basically you can start iterating and get a step-by-step process into this migration. So that was all from me. This is actually where you can actually find the slides and the GitHub repo if you would like to see what's inside. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Konstantinos.
No worries at all.